Black waitress fired for bringing her sick son to work. Then her new boss walked in and changed everything. What if a single mother, desperate to provide for her sick child, brought him to work and lost everything in an instant? Nina Thomas was a force of nature, though she'd never call herself that. At 32, she carried the weight of her world with a quiet strength that belied her exhaustion. A single mother to Jaden, her 8-year-old son, she lived in a cramped apartment in the heart of a bustling city, where skyscrapers cast long shadows over their lives. Jaden was her everything, his toothy grin, his love for dinosaurs, the way he'd curl up against her during thunderstorms. But for the past 9 months, his light had dimmed. A rare autoimmune disorder had taken hold, turning his vibrant energy into fevers, fatigue, and hospital stays that drained Nina's heart and bank account. Nina worked as a waitress at La Belle Étoile, a high-end restaurant where the city's elite dined on caviar and sipped wines older than her son. The job was a lifeline, the only thing keeping them afloat. She was exceptional at it. Her warm smile disarmed even the most demanding patrons, and her memory for their quirks. Mr. Larson liked his steak rare, Mrs. Patel preferred sparkling water with a twist of lime, earned her tips that paid for Jaden's medications. But the hours were brutal. 10-hour shifts, 6 days a week, with a manager, Greg, who ruled with an iron fist. "You're late, you're out," he'd snap, his eyes cold. Nina couldn't afford to slip. Her life was a tightrope. Mornings were spent coaxing Jaden to eat, checking his temperature, and rushing him to school or the hospital before her shift. Evenings were for soothing his fears, reading him stories about triceratops, and pretending everything was okay. She hadn't slept a full night in months, her dreams haunted by bills she couldn't pay and the fear of losing Jaden. She had no family to lean on, her parents were gone, and her sister lived across the country, barely keeping in touch. Friends. They'd faded when Jaden's illness consumed her time. It was just her and Jaden against the world. It was a cold Tuesday morning in October when Nina's world began to crack. Jaden had woken up at 3 a.m., his body burning with a fever that wouldn't break. "Mama, it hurts," he'd whimpered, clutching his stuffed dinosaur, Rex. Nina held him, her mind racing. She'd already missed 2 shifts that month for hospital visits, and Greg's warning echoed in her ears. "One more absence, Nina, and you're gone." But Jaden couldn't be left alone, and Mrs. Carter, the elderly neighbor who sometimes watched him, was visiting her daughter in Chicago. Nina's savings were gone, spent on co-pays and prescriptions. She had no choice. She made a desperate plan. She'd bring Jaden to work and hide him in the storage room at La Belle Étoile. It was risky, but the restaurant wasn't open yet, and she could check on him between tables. She bundled him in a jacket, packed a bag with water, snacks, and his dinosaur, and carried him to the restaurant. The storage room was cramped, smelling of flour and cleaning supplies, but she made a nest of aprons and settled Jaden in. "Stay quiet, okay, baby," she whispered, brushing his damp hair from his forehead. "Mama's right here if you need me." He nodded, his eyes heavy, and curled up with Rex. The lunch rush was relentless. Nina darted between tables, balancing trays of lobster bisque and crystal flutes of champagne, her smile a mask over her panic. Every chance she got, she slipped into the storage room, checking Jaden's fever, giving him sips of water. He was pale, his breathing shallow, but he stayed quiet, clutching Rex. Nina's heart ached, but she kept moving, praying no one would notice. Then it happened. Greg stormed into the storage room to grab a case of Merlot and stopped dead. "What the hell is this, Nina?" His voice was a blade, cutting through the hum of the kitchen. Nina rushed in, her pulse pounding. "Greg, please," she said, her voice low. "He's sick. I didn't have anyone to watch him. He's not in the way." Greg's face twisted with fury. "This is a 5-star restaurant, not a damn nursery. You think you can bring your kid here and screw up my operation?" His voice rose, drawing stares from the kitchen staff. "You're fired, Nina. Pack your stuff and get out. Now." The words hit like a tidal wave. Nina's knees buckled, but she caught herself, tears burning her eyes. "Greg, please," she begged, her voice breaking. "I need this job. Jaden needs me to have this job. I'll do anything." But Greg was already turning away, barking at another server to cover her tables. The kitchen staff stood frozen, their eyes averted, as Nina gathered Jaden in her arms, his small body limp against her. She grabbed his bag and stumbled out the back door, the cold air hitting her like a slap. Humiliation and fear choked her as she stood in the alley, holding her son, her world crumbling. Nina stood outside La Belle Étoile, the city's noise a dull roar in her ears. Jaden stirred in her arms, murmuring, "Mama, are we going home?" She forced a smile, but her voice cracked. "Yeah, baby. We're going home." But where was home without a job? Without money for rent, for Jaden's meds, for their survival? She felt like she was falling, no ground beneath her. A voice broke through her spiral. "Excuse me. What happened in there?" Nina turned to see a man in his late 40s, dressed in a tailored suit but with a warmth in his eyes that felt like a lifeline. He was tall, with salt and pepper hair and a calm presence that seemed to still the chaos around her. His name, she'd later learn, was Richard Anderson, the new owner of La Belle Étoile. I got fired," Nina said, her voice barely above a whisper. She wiped her eyes, ashamed of the tears. "My son's sick. I didn't have anyone to watch him, so I brought him here. I didn't know what else to do." Richard's brow furrowed as he glanced at Jaden, then back at her. "I'm Richard. I bought this place last week. Tell me everything." Nina hesitated, her pride warring with her desperation. But his steady gaze, free of judgment, pulled the truth from her. She told him about Jaden's illness, the endless hospital visits, the bills that kept her awake at night. She told him how she'd worked at La Belle Étoile for 3 years, pouring her heart into it, only to lose everything in a moment. "I just wanted to keep him safe," she finished, her voice breaking. Richard listened, his expression unreadable but not unkind. When she was done, he nodded. "Come back inside," he said. "Let's figure this out." Nina followed Richard back into the restaurant, her heart a tangle of hope and fear. Greg was still there, his face souring when he saw her. "What's she doing back here?" he snapped, his arms crossed. Richard's voice was calm but carried an edge. "She's here because I say so. Greg, we'll talk later." He turned to Nina, his tone softening. "Your son can stay in my office for now. It's quiet, and there's a couch. I'll have someone bring him some soup and a blanket." Nina blinked, stunned. "You're not firing me?" "No," Richard said, a small smile breaking through. "I'm giving you a new role. I've watched you with the customers, Nina. You're a natural. You're going to be our guest relations coordinator. Better hours, better pay, and flexibility for your son. You start tomorrow." It felt like a dream, too good to be true. Nina's voice trembled. "Why are you doing this? You don't even know me." Richard's eyes softened, a shadow of memory crossing his face. "I know what it's like to be at the bottom, Nina. I grew up with nothing, built my business from scratch. I've had my share of bad days, and I know what a second chance can do. You're not just a waitress. You've got something special. I'm betting on you." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of transformation. Jaden's condition stabilized with a new treatment plan, his fevers less frequent, his energy slowly returning. Nina threw herself into her new role with a fire she hadn't felt in years. As guest relations coordinator, she was the face of La Belle Étoile, ensuring every customer left with a story to tell. She trained the staff to anticipate needs, streamlined the reservation system, and suggested menu tweaks based on customer feedback, like adding a vegan dessert that became a hit. Her ideas were sharp, her energy contagious, and the restaurant began to hum with a new vitality. Richard kept his promise about flexibility. When Jaden had a doctor's appointment, Nina could shift her hours without fear. She started to breathe again, the knot in her chest loosening. At home, she and Jaden rebuilt their rhythm. She'd read to him at night, his head on her shoulder, Rex the dinosaur tucked beside him. His laughter returned, and their apartment, once a place of survival, felt like a home again. Nina's confidence grew. She enrolled in night classes for hospitality management, dreaming of a future where she could run her own restaurant. She started a notebook, jotting down ideas for a cozy diner where families like hers could feel welcome. For the first time, she saw a path beyond survival, a path where she and Jaden could thrive. But it wasn't just Nina who was changing. Richard spent more time at La Belle Étoile, drawn by the energy Nina brought. He'd built a tech empire from nothing, a kid from a rough neighborhood who'd clawed his way up. Success, to him, had always been about numbers, revenue, growth, deals. But watching Nina, he saw something else. Her resilience, her love for Jaden, her ability to make every customer feel seen, it shifted something in him. He started to question his own definition of success. Just as Nina's life seemed to stabilize, a storm brewed. Greg, bitter about Richard's decision to keep Nina, began sowing discord. He spread rumors among the staff, whispering that Nina's new role was a result of favoritism, not talent. "She's got the boss wrapped around her finger," he'd mutter in the kitchen. The rumors spread like wildfire, and the staff's camaraderie frayed. Servers who'd once joked with Nina now gave her cold looks. One night, Maria, a veteran server, confronted her in the break room. "You think you're better than us?" Maria snapped, her arms crossed. "You bring your kid here, get fired, and somehow land a promotion? What makes you so special?" Nina's heart sank. She'd worked hard to prove herself, staying late to train the team, sharing credit for successes. But the accusations cut deep. She confronted Richard the next day, her voice shaking. "Is this what people think? That I'm only here because of you?" Richard's face darkened. "That's nonsense, Nina. You earned this. But I'll handle it." The next morning, he called a staff meeting. The kitchen was packed, the air thick with tension. Richard stood at the front, his presence commanding silence. "I've heard the rumors," he said, his voice steady. "And I'm disappointed. Nina didn't get this job because of favoritism. She got it because she's exceptional. She's made this place better. Better service, better morale, better reviews. If you can't see that, maybe you're in the wrong place." Then came the twist. Richard paused, his eyes sweeping the room. "I was planning to franchise La Belle Étoile, turn it into a chain across the country. Big money, big growth. But Nina changed my mind. She showed me this place isn't just a business, it's a community. So I'm scrapping the franchise plan. Instead, I'm investing in you. Better wages, training programs, and a profit-sharing plan. This restaurant belongs to all of us." The room was silent, then erupted in cheers. Nina stood frozen, tears in her eyes, as servers clapped her on the back, apologizing for the rumors. Maria hugged her, whispering, "I was wrong. You're one of us." Greg, humiliated, resigned the next day, unable to face the team he'd tried to divide. 6 months later, La Belle Étoile was a beacon in the city. Nina had become its heart, not just managing guests but inspiring the team. She led with empathy, remembering what it was like to feel invisible. The staff rallied around her, and the restaurant's reviews soared, with customers praising the warmth and care they felt. Jaden was in full remission, his energy back, his dinosaur collection growing. He'd even started helping Nina study, quizzing her on hospitality terms with a seriousness that made her laugh. Nina's dreams took shape. Her notebook was now a business plan for Nina's Place, a diner where single parents could work flexible hours and kids could feel at home. She shared it with Richard one evening, nervous but hopeful. He read it, his eyes lighting up. "This is brilliant," he said. "I want in. Not as a boss, but as a partner." Richard, too, had transformed. He launched a mentorship program for single parents in the restaurant industry, funding scholarships and training. He realized his legacy wasn't in wealth, but in the lives he could change. His bond with Nina deepened, not romantic, but a profound friendship built on mutual respect. They challenged each other, learned from each other, and together, they made La Belle Étoile a place where people didn't just eat, they connected. One spring evening, as the restaurant closed, Nina, Jaden, and Richard sat at a corner table. Jaden giggled as Richard taught him to fold a napkin into a dinosaur, his small hands fumbling but determined. Nina watched, her heart full. She'd once thought her world had ended in that alley, holding her son, jobless and broken. But now, she saw it had been the start of something new. "Thank you," she said to Richard, her voice soft but steady. He shook his head, smiling. "No, Nina. Thank you. You showed me what success really looks like." As the restaurant's lights dimmed, casting a warm glow over the city, Nina felt a peace she hadn't known in years. She wasn't just surviving anymore, she was building, dreaming, thriving. And with Jaden's hand in hers and a friend by her side, she knew they could face anything. La Belle Étoile wasn't just a restaurant, it was a home, a community, a testament to second chances. And for Nina, it was proof that even in the darkest moments, hope could light the way.